Hey guys, welcome. Today I'm going to talk a bit about spirituality in the shifting paradigm and fear as a frequency. So over the last days I've been receiving some downloads on the spiritual field and how things are changing and some awarenesses that are important to have for people in this field. And also today I was guided specifically back to a channeling I had back in January 2020 when they started teaching me specifically on fear as a frequency and how this frequency works, how to differentiate between my own fear and fear I take on from others, and how it works and what is important to pay attention to. And they said that it's important to bring this information in now and connect it with the beliefs in the spiritual community and to become really aware, because they say that it's so easy to be very critical and aware of all belief systems that are from like the society or the collective or the programming in that, but remember that there's programming in the spiritual field as well. And just as the other types of things that are from the society in general, it doesn't mean that it is bad in and of itself, because it did work in the frequency that we were in that paradigm. But as it's shifting, so is this field. And it's important that we keep awareness of where we might have limiting beliefs that no longer works, even though they're spiritual in like by design, or that's where they come from. Because what I said is that there's so many people that are, how can I say this, sort of holding themselves back, but more being held back unconsciously because they are doing a practice maybe that no longer serves them, that did serve up to a specific point, or they have beliefs like everything has to be a process because that's how we have used to experience everything. But now we're shifting so fast and we don't need necessarily to go into those long processes. It can hit really hard and it can come fast, but we are moving through it much quicker than we were. But if we go into some sort of a trigger or some sort of a process or clearing, purging, something like this, and we hold that belief that this is going to be like it always was, I'm going to go into this process, it's going to look like this, I'm going to do these steps like this, and it's going to take this certain time, then we're actually holding ourselves back with that belief, which we maybe are not so aware of because we're not so critical to what it is. We're so aware and critical in a way to what is in our own field, meaning the spiritual community and field, that we will be holding ourselves or stopping ourselves from actually going through the process much quicker and letting it move through, because we have like a fixed idea of how it's going to look. And we're really being asked now to let go of a lot of those beliefs as well, and to really come back to our intuition and our heart, because things are speeding up and it will continue to speed up. And the more we're clinging onto things, as we know, the more, and we're attaching to something, the more struggle we will experience. And what I've said is that there's a lot of things that did work in the frequency we were in and in the paradigm we have been in, but that won't work and is no longer working, and it is shifting. It doesn't mean that what we were in was bad. It doesn't mean that everything is no longer working. But it means that we have to be open for changes and open to look at the beliefs also in our own community. They say that there's a lot of practitioners, for example, that have experience that they have to change their modalities a bit and adjust it a bit over the last year, but especially last half year, and that will continue. You will experience much more of that, and those are the things, like we have had this like structure, and we have to do like this modality and then this modality, and we expect this process in our healing work, and we like they're saying that there's so much of these types of structures that we are now being asked to let go of, and just really be present and come back to our heart and connect inward with our own intuition and use that as a guidance, and be open to change the framework we have been working with when we feel guided to, when we feel it's necessary. Not only holding on to it because it did work before. Because they say that there's much more awareness about these type of dynamics outside of our own field than what we have in our own field. And that's where they brought in fear as well. Because they say, the one thing that they wanted me to ask is, are you buying into fear within the spiritual community? Because there are beliefs, there are narratives in the community that are built on fear, that comes from that frequency, that consciousness. And the way to feel into whether it's fear or not is to feel, really stay in your body, to breathe into your body, and to feel into whatever it is that you're reading or hearing or pondering about or whatever, and feel into, does it feel like a contraction or does it feel like an expansion in your body? If it's a contraction, there's fear there. And underneath the fear, there's always a belief, is what they told me. So go into that and become aware of the belief. And it's as important to be aware of what is coming from fear in this community as, you know, in other areas of our lives, because the frequency behind fear is the same frequency no matter what field it is held within. And so if something, some narrative, some message, some anything that holds the frequency of fear, ask yourself if you want to buy into it or not. Come back to your heart, come back to your intuition. And if you are in a state of fear, of despair, of confusion, come back to yourself. Don't, like what they've been teaching me is to never make a decision and never take an action out from that state. Because that's rather a resistance and a confusion, and you are much more, there's much more, and I can't find the right word. Sometimes when I'm receiving messages as I'm talking, it's a bit difficult to formulate. I hope you're still with me. That sometimes it's more easy to make a quote-unquote wrong decision, or to do a decision that is not really aligned with ourselves and our highest good, if we come from the frequency and the state and the consciousness of fear, of a contracted state and a resistance to what we are in. But if we come back to it and we feel it through and we sit with it and we let it come through, underneath there we are in our light, we are in our alignment, and from that place we can make a decision. From that place we can take action. From that place we can find our creativity, we can find inspiration. And not making it wrong when we are in that state of despair or fear or confusion. Not judging ourselves for it, because then we're putting even more weight onto it. But let us have that and be aware that, okay, now I'm in this state. I'm aware that I'm in this state, and I'm going to be with it. I'm going to release whatever I need to release. And from the calmness or the state I come to when I have got this through my system, from that place I can make a decision, or I can take action on something. And the separation that we see in the society now, in the human collective, is something that, and I have been saying this before, but it's coming in really strongly now, that there is a lot of it also happening within the spiritual field, and to have the awareness to feel into what is behind this. Is this coming from fear, or is it coming from love, joy, acceptance, a higher state, a higher frequency? Yeah, and what I say also is that when we feel into, because it's like they showed me like the pattern, the way the energy is moving in that frequency of fear. And they say that stagnation, when we find stagnation in our lives, that's also because of fear. It's always fear. So we have to break free from that old patterning. And they say that the belief inherent in the fear, that's what we have to find, and that's what we have to change. So really question those beliefs. Go into, like, meeting the fear and looking at the fear which is behind whatever we're receiving, or what is our own. If it's not our own fear, but it's something that is coming from the external, you have the power and you have the choice whether you want to buy into it or not. If you're aware of that, you can actually feel into whether this is coming from fear or coming from another consciousness, another frequency, it's much more easy to make the choice for yourself. And if we are taking on fear from others because we're not aware of that this belief or this narrative or this whatever is based in fear, and we start to entrain with that frequency, and we start to take it in because we're not aware of which frequency is really behind it, because we don't see and understand the energetics of it, which we perfectly can. It's just a practice. It's just being in the body and feeling it. Is it a contracted state, or is it an expansive state? If it's a contraction, if it feels like a contraction, there's fear there, and it's not the way we want to go. So no matter who it comes from, no matter what it is, having that awareness is so important. And if you're receiving something that has fear in it, or is based in fear from the external, we are actually giving our power away. So what I said is that very often when we take in fear from the external, we take it in our solar plexus, even though that's not where most of our fear is held. It's where we often take it in because we're giving our power away. And we're buying into someone else's belief system. What we're actually doing, if you're taking this on, is that we're creating from that place, and we're creating someone else's reality, not our own reality. It becomes our reality, what we're living, but we're creating it from beliefs and from a state that is actually from someone else. And we can take that back really easily, but we have to face our fears, and we have to be able and dare to stand in our own empowerment and feel into whether something is coming from fear or from something else, and have that discernment. And that's only you that can have. You can only have discernment for you, no one else. And when we're taking on something from someone else, there is a resonance there. We need to have some sort of belief that resonates with the fear they hold. So it has something to hook into, sort of. There's some reason like why we adopt it. That can be so many different things, and I'm not going to go into that specifically in this video. But they say that when that belief is no longer in our field, when we clear that belief, that makes the fear, because there's always this belief underneath the fear, then the fear will dissolve. So always feeling into, is this based in fear? Does it resonate? Use your discernment. Do I want to take this on? Do I want to play in this or not? If it's your own fear you're facing, come back to feeling it and become aware of the beliefs that are underneath. When you clear and when you change those beliefs, the fear will dissolve because of the resonance of frequency. And that's really the power we hold. So it's the energy behind that is important. And having the awareness that the paradigm is shifting also in spirituality, that we're open for changes, open to follow the guidance, open to trust ourselves, to come back to our hearts, to follow our own guidance, is just increasingly important as we're moving forward. And also the judgment, I think I want to add that in the end now. Because we tend, I know I've been mentioning this several months ago, but what they always show me is that we very often see, or there are many who see themselves better as someone because I'm awake, I'm better than you, or I have come through this and you haven't, I'm better than you, or looking at it like, oh, you understand so much and I'm not, like I will never be at that point. Like either looking at someone above or below us. And we are constantly growing, we are constantly expanding. And I said that we so often look at it as a staircase, and we look either up or down to someone, and we compare ourselves, make ourselves smaller or bigger than. If we instead see it as a field of light, and we see that our field is growing, it's simply more light expanding out from our field, and it's just a question or a matter of how much light is actually, how much we have expanded, and it's nothing better than or worse than. Because that's also something that is important to look at and have awareness of, like how we're looking at this, because these are also beliefs that keeps fear and these frequencies sort of in place. Yeah, I think that's it for today. I hope this is helpful for you. Please ask if something is not clear, and I will make sure I clear it up. I welcome your comments. I love hearing whether it's helpful for you, what you're experiencing. I love hearing your sharings. Please share this if you know someone who can have assistance from it. And I wish you a beautiful day or morning or evening wherever you are, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.